closer you get to the flame of the Spirit, the more joyful you'll become. The closer you get to the Spirit's fire, the purer you'll become. The spiritual fire, the nearer you get to the fountain, the more overflowing that you'll become. The spiritual lightness, the closer you walk with Jesus, the more you look like Jesus. He wants better close out.
It's streaming now. We got internet. I don't know how. So you are live and live. So I got Jamal on the phone. Is it all right if I go to him, or did you have something you wanted to?
No.
That wrapped around the.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Is Jamal a regular?
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's show, what will it take to restore your faith in elected officials in government? We would love your views. 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. And here today we have the treasurer, the state treasurer of the state of North Carolina, Dale Folwell, and we got Jamal is in North Carolina. Jamal, you're on Truth Talk Live. How are you, sir?
Absolutely. Jamal, how are you doing?
I'll get right to it. What's going to take from me is going to be somebody of faith. Anytime that people want to do it their own way and do it God's way, and it needs some room to put it shortly. If you don't have a moral compass, if you're not good at God, you need it. You're rudderless. So I'm going to put a question to you, as somebody who's just the numbers, got a lot of death off of books in North Carolina. What would be your pushback to somebody that says Christianity has no place in government? And also, as a two-parter, real quick, your opponent has a pretty good father. So I believe in your campaign. I believe you're a very good candidate. My second part would be, what would your plan be to counteract that big problem your opponent has?
Well, number one is that in answer to your first question, there is a place for God in our government. I mean, our country was founded on the basis of God. So let's get that out of the way. Number one. Number two, I didn't get where I am in life by pulling other people off their ladder. Because when you're poor and you're got evicted from your house 2 miles from where we're sitting in the studio as a young kid, when you pull someone else off their ladder, they fall on you. And the world, Jamal, never knows who you were or what you were about. So I'm going to let Mark Robinson be who he is. What I am not is a shirker. What I am not is a person who will not show up and actually debate and apply for this job and explain my vision for North Carolina going forward. And what I'm not is someone who spews hate to gain power. Hate is on the rise. We've been dealing with this with Israel. And the fact is that whether it's anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, or anti-Israel, I support Israel. I support Jews, and I support all of that. But the fact is that I'm running on hope, and I'm not running on hate. And we have got to get the joy of achievement, as I said earlier, back in our society. And I think the biggest difference between my opponent and I, which we're not on the show to talk about, is simply this, Jamal. I know how precious your car is to you. Who would you hand your car keys to for 4 years and come back 4 years later and expect that car to be in better working condition, clean and fully gassed up? That's the only question in this whole election. who would you hand your car keys to and come back and find it to be in better shape? And
Well, being the Christian car guy, I really like that answer.
and lastly, my reputation is that I don't listen to respond. I listen to understand. And I think that's what God wants us to do. The vision to see, the humility to listen, and the courage to act. And it's funny that the word rage is inside the word courage. And it means COUR means from the heart.
Right, exactly. Jamal, that's awesome. Thank you, my brother. I am so grateful for you and your constant encouragement and you calling in today.
I know you're talking about election day and typically what's going to take for us to get our faith back in our discipline system. And that's pretty much what I was asking. I know you weren't here to talk about opponents, but for me, I don't really have faith in somebody who's not a person of faith. And I'm glad that I met this Folwell person. He is a man of faith and a man of numbers. We can have a better conversation for that. I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Folwell. God bless you.
Thank you, Jamal. Very good. Very wonderful. So I just happen to have a few quotables along the idea of religion and state. And so to quote these real quick that might help Jamal out, I love these. Did you know Ronald Reagan said, if we ever forget that we are one nation under God, then we will be one nation gone under. Ronald Reagan has sense of humor. Harry S. Truman said the fundamental basis of this nation's laws was given to Moses on the Mount. If we don't have a proper fundamental moral background, we'll finally end up with a totalitarian government, which does not believe in rights for anybody except the state. And you may know Ken Ham with Answers in Genesis. He said there's no such thing as a separation of church and state. Reporters continue to promote that fallacy and scare Christians out of standing up for their beliefs. Wow, strong, right? And Tony Campolo said, if marriage really is a sacred institution, then why is the government controlling it, especially in a nation that affirms separation of church and state? Fascinating quotes. We got John is in Virginia. John, you're on Truth Talk Live. Good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. A thing that you guys had just talked about a little bit ago was the incompetency of government. Now, I'm a big words guy. I like words. I use words a lot, what I do. And here's where I'm going to have a little bit of, if you will, retreat. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that this current government, elected representatives all the way up to the chief, is incompetent. I don't think that's the case. I think the case is it's on purpose. It's I personally see it because I see everything that's going on. I read a lot of news articles. I try to stay away from as much as possible the rhetoric, the op-eds, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, this looks more intentional than it looks incompetent to me. And the reason that I say this is when, the word itself, incompetence, just shows that, quite frankly, somebody's stupid. They don't know what they're doing. They are incapable. A lot of these elected leaders are quite capable. They're intelligent, and they're intelligent enough to know that the only way to destroy our nation is from within, here. Quite frankly, I wish Abraham Lincoln would have kept his mouth shut when he said that he didn't think the entire world could cross the borders of the United States and win, to take paraphrasing, to take a drink from the Ohio River. And he was right. He said, if we're going to be undone, it's going to be from within. And it's going to be from within because, think about it. Would you go to an incompetent person and have them do anything for you? No, you'd dismiss that person. You'd have them walk away from that person. You wouldn't trust them to do it.
So, John, just to back up a second here, because I don't remember using the word incompetent myself.
Just a little bit ago, right before this last guy, somebody talked about the incompetency of government.
Yeah, that would be, Dale mentioned that, and he's pointing his finger to himself. So I'm gonna let him answer your question. Because I didn't, again,
John,
I was talking about trust.
John, when you look at the basic role of our federal government, I was applying that word to the fact that their basic responsibilities, and I forget which president it was that said it. If you're looking to the federal government for your answers, you've already lost. But so what I was saying was, when you look at the thievery that's going on through inflation and its direct connection to a federal government who has an addiction, like any other addiction you want to talk about on Truth Network, an addiction for money that's causing interest rates to go up, prices of everything to go up, which is stealing from especially the middle, lower, and fixed income people, or the border. Or we all know what we're seeing, and we all know how we feel about what we're seeing, and what we have. And both political parties are responsible for this. What we have is counterfeit conservatives. The root word of conservative is to conserve. The root word of liberal is to liberate, to set economically free. You cannot be liberated in your life if you don't save in the beginning. And the root word of government is to govern. It's a verb. These are all, since you're a words person, I know that you know that the root word of all these bigger words is vitally important, and our country has lost sight of them, both at the state and the federal level.
All right, we'll be right back. Hang on, John. We're not done with you. I'm sure you're not done with us. So we'll be right back with more Truth Talk Live.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on Cuba,
That's amazing how fast this goes.
Yeah, it does. It always is. I ain't even got to tell my jokes, but I don't think it'd be in good taste right this minute. So the good news is we're still streaming. Still got plenty of calls.
Do I need to brush my hair?
No, you're looking good. You got your glasses on, your headphones, your hair is kind of like mine. Whatever. I would love to take on John on his actual, but I don't know that I should. It's like, have you heard of certain things you can't judge, and that's another person's intentions. But I don't know that would be fruitful in this case, because John sounds kind of angry. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
PVA is proud to serve veterans across all branches, all generations, and all conflicts. Our nation's heroes fought for your independence. Join PVA in fighting for theirs at pva.org. The good and the bad and the ugly, I can still see the sunshine above me. Lord, I love all the ways that you love me. You're the good, you're the good, you're the good man. Truth Network wants to inspire all people to experience the truth through sound Bible teaching and Christian talk. Is Jesus missing in your life? Discover the goodness today. You are still the goodness.
And now, today's Pathway Minute with Dr. Robert Jeffress.
I'm going to suggest today more foundational and more importantly, biblical commitments we have to make if we're going to eliminate, reduce the mental regrets we have about our parenting. Commitment number one is this: I will spend. Commitment number two is this: I will create lasting memories for my children. Commitment number three: I'll spend time with my children. Secondly, I'll build lasting memories with my children. Number three, I will discover and develop my children's gifts. The fourth commitment is this: I will exercise appropriate discipline with my child.
Dr. Robert Jeffress is heard Monday through Friday on your station.
To learn more, go to ptv.org.
Here's Dr. Charles Stanley, keeping believers in touch with
Are you a Charles Stanley fan?
To what now?
Are you a Charles Stanley fan?
Am I? Oh, absolutely.
And Andy too?
I haven't followed Andy as closely as I followed Charles, but I understand he's a wonderful man.
I shouldn't say I go to sleep with him every night, but I do. Every night I put Andy Stanley on. Every night. And if I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I put him on again. And he's an incredible guy.
Yeah, Charles Stanley was the one who actually heard the Christian Car Guy show and put it on nationally. He kind of put me on the map. So I forever will be grateful to Charles Stanley.
Yeah.
And I met him on a couple occasions. Just a super person in person. You know, a lot of those people, when you meet them in person, I'm sure you've experienced that.
Yeah.
You know, you're not really sure that's the kind of person you want to go have dinner with.
Sure.
But Charles Stanley, I go have dinner with any day of the week.
Yeah.
You know, and I imagine his son is like that too.
Yeah. Well, the grandson is a comedian.
Is he?
Who makes fun of
His grandfather?
his dad and his grandpa in a very clean,
Right.
funny way. Like he says, if you walk into Chick-fil-A at 2 o'clock and a mother and their teenage child are sitting on both sides of the booth, they're probably homeschooled. So he takes all these experiences of his own life
Right.
and puts it in a comedy. He's Andrew.
Andrew Stanley. I got to check that out. I do. Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. How fun today with Dale Folwell. He is the treasurer of North Carolina and also running for governor. As we all know, this is a year of much of that kind of stuff, deep in prayer. We all should be. It's a deep question in my own heart that it hadn't been for my discussion with Dale earlier yesterday. I never really would have considered my own answer to that question. What would it take for me to have faith in government officials? And I have a really, here's my real challenge. I'll be honest with you, Dale, and I'm going to get John's here in a minute. But I know for me, what happened in the election of 2020 that Andy talked about was everybody was lying.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't find the truth. I was just looking for somebody to tell me what really is going on here, because nothing you were saying makes sense and nothing you were saying makes sense. And I'm clearly not getting it out of the media. So what is the truth in the actual situation? And I can come up with no way for myself personally to say, I don't know that I believe in the even election process currently, based on the doubt that was put into that in 2020. And so therein lies, I've been waiting for a politician to come around and say, here's how I think we can put faith back into the process itself.
Well, you're exactly right. And I just, when you made that statement, it's just a reminder of everything that we constantly think about, and that is trust and faith.
Right.
We cannot have a country where people trust their government if they don't trust the way that people get elected. Elections should be simple and secure.
Right.
The last thing we need to be arguing about in this country right now, with everything that's coming at us, is whether our elections are actually safe and secure. The Eppersons are entrepreneurs. Salem Broadcasting, entrepreneurs. Truth Network, entrepreneurs. We now have conflict entrepreneurs in this country. Conflict entrepreneurs who are making hundreds of millions of dollars on keeping us divided. So the reason why that you're having a hard time deciphering about all this data that's coming to you from both sides is that these conflict entrepreneurs are making hundreds of millions of dollars on keeping you confused.
Really? This shows that this is a great conversation. I did not know that.
Which is the opposite of the truth.
Right.
which is the name of this network. And it's important that before we close out this last segment, to say to your listeners, if they're feeling exhausted, if the world is coming at them in ways they never expected, if they're dissatisfied and angry about counterfeit conservatives, people who have never conserved anything, and when they get to Raleigh and Washington, they do something the exact opposite of what they put on their job application. If your listeners are feeling exhausted and angry about that, I want to tell them they're feeling normal.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing we need in our society right now is for people who are seeking the truth, who know what they see and know what they hear, to make them feel like there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're actually feeling normal because this exhaustion that I've talked about, this anger that I'm talking about, these conflict entrepreneurs that are keeping our country divided. Mathematically, we cannot stand this. And that's why we've got to come together. I'm old enough to remember when the Beatles went off tour in the early 60s.
Me too.
They went off tour because John Lennon could not hear Paul McCartney sing on stage. They could not hear each other because the audience was screaming so loudly. So the audience couldn't hear them. They couldn't hear each other, so they went off tour and went back and cut the White Album in England. That is what's going on in our society right now. People are just screaming past each other, and we have to stop it. You know, everybody thinks the word repent means to be sorry. It means to cease, to stop, to reverse. That is what's going to bring confidence back into our governments at all levels.
Oh, beautiful. Well said. Well said. Well, John, we didn't want to leave you hanging, but I know you may have another word for us, so I wanted to give you another chance. John in Virginia.
Quickly, to tack on to that, I've been teaching my son that you're either going to stand against or you're going to stand for something. When standing against something, it's a lot like that particular analogy where people are constantly screaming that it's a negative connotation, where at some point you get overwhelmed, you get discouraged, you just don't want to fight back anymore because you're standing against an onslaught.
Right.
However, if you flip that coin, the same coin, it's just a different side, you flip that coin and you stand for something. Well, then it gets a different viewpoint. You stand for freedom. You stand for things.
Mm-hmm.
You're standing for your love of God and country. So, you know, in teaching him, he's fairly young, but in teaching him these things, a lot of what was just said sort of brought that to me, right? And I'd like the listeners to hear that you've got to stand for, not stand against.
Well, as Aaron Tippin always says, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I want to compliment you, John, because good government starts at home, and you seem to be a shining example of that. And I'd also like to I'm a motorcycle racer, and I've probably pulled some things behind cars that I shouldn't have pulled. And John, I want to lay this on your heart this afternoon. The Bible says that when faced with anxiety and uncertainty, our only choice is to give more. Now, John, this may not have happened to you or Robbie, but you may at some point in your life been in a high-speed wobble where you're pulling a trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden the trailer starts swapping ends. You know what you have to do to get out of that situation and not die? You have to speed up. You have to give more. If you try to slow down when you're in a high-speed wobble, when a trailer's behind your vehicle, you're going to crash. So you've got to do what the Bible tells us to do. When faced with anxiety and uncertainty, when we do get tired, when we do get beat down, we have to speed up and give more. That's the only way that we're going to pull out of these wobbles that we're in. So you're exactly right, John, and I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I too. I was, that's a really cool example you gave to your son, John. I'm so glad you shared that, and I appreciate you calling in very much. We're going to get to somebody else, though. Thank you for calling in, John. I really appreciate it. God bless you, my friend. Up there in Virginia, we got Clay is in North Carolina. Clay, you're on Truth Talk Live, my friend. What you got for us?
And Brother Dale, I just want to say, God given thank you for coming on and sharing what you shared. You know, was listening to what people have said and shared. Heard a 3 days ago, share that it really caught my attention, and it was a reconcile. And you know, Brother Robbie was talking about it. Was coming from this school teacher and deacon who was having a hard time breathing. So I went over and helped him, but I was listening to what you think. I heard a word was, it's more than restoring, but you know, y'all were so that what had happened. There was a deception that I've heard pastors preach who have been deceiving in the life. That's the work. So many people were that, you know, it called us to confused. And you know, it's interesting that you brought up that you were talking to the Gospel of John. I was gonna call in and saying Aaron Tippin has a strong. You've got to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. And that's a pretty song. You listen to those words; they have great meaning. But this pastor was preaching on this word called reconcile, and in the Greek it means change. Until each person who is, I'm not a political person, gentlemen. I'm not, and I have expressed that for years because of all what the word faith and tips stands for. I believe, you know, I believe in what I'm, where you are, where you gentlemen are. It's putting that Christian foundation.
Clay, I hate to jump in here, but you're breaking up horribly. Have you got a question or something that you?
I don't have a question. I just would like to commend Brother Dale on what he's doing. I just believe that when we not only restoring is regenerating and renewing, but it's also reconcile, which means change. And when we change things for what His will be done.
That's awesome, Clay. Thank you, buddy.
And Clay, I would just add that I've made all the right enemies as the state treasurer of North Carolina. When I was first elected, I got 62 Christmas cards. The second year, I got 5, and two of them were to deceased treasurers. So I only got 3. Doing right's rarely wrong. You're exactly right regarding the Aaron Tippin song, and thank you for believing in Jesus.
Yeah, thank you, Clay. Well, Dale, we'll give you the last word because, again, we only got about 30, 40 seconds.
Well, just want to be optimistic about 2024. No matter if you like the president or not, let's get back to the dignity and respecting all these elected officials and the spouses of any public servant, especially keeping Sergeant Dale Nix's family in our prayers, who was a Greensboro police officer who was just murdered in the last 7 days.
Thank you very much. Yes. God bless. All righty. It did go fast, and it was really fun. I hate that we had that trouble with.
If you have a gap sometime, I'll be glad to join you remotely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will. I bet you pick up on that.
I didn't get to talk about the mirror. We got too many elected officials who look in the mirror, and they should be pointing it back to the citizens.
You know,
I got a lot to talk about. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie of The Darkest Hour with Winston Churchill, where he's in that scene where he's in the railroad car with all those people underground? It's one of the most remarkable pictures of government you could see, because you could see we're completely. He was wanting to see what the people wanted, and the people were wanting to encourage him. I mean, that was kind of like what it's supposed to look like
when the elected leader said surrender.
Right.
Terry and Zimmer here.
Yeah. You're next.
Oh.
Take that.
No, they're not.
I got one with you if you can take home with you.
Thank you.
This is what my wife thinks about me after 35 years.
Oh, awesome. Good.
Thank you so
Good to
much.
see you, right?
That was an honor, really was.
Awesome.
And you were beyond fantastic. I was really, really impressed. That's the best answer that I've ever had to that question. I've run it by Mark Robinson and a few others. That was well said.
Thank you.
Hey Dale,
Hey.
you were going back in. I didn't want to take too much
Good to
time.
see you.
Good to see you. Listen, we'd love to have you back on the Jill show before we get inside the 60-day window.
Yeah.
If you'd like, I can send you an email, or I will email somebody in your office.
FolwellCampaign@gmail.com.
Okay, I've got that email. Okay,
Yeah. So when is?
Choose Thursdays at 9, and we couldn't do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It'd probably be next week or the week after.
Okay.
And,
I'll have to do it remotely.
well, we can make that work. We
Okay.
can make that work.
That means everything. Thank you so much.
And what we're doing, but we're offering not just your race, but all the races.
Sure.
It's one segment, so it's like 9 minutes or 9
Okay.
minutes and 25 seconds or something like that.
I love to be on.
Okay,
So
all right,
that'll
good deal.
remind you.
Okay,
All right.
good deal.
Happy New Year. I'm sorry to bring you brownies. I don't want you
Oh, it's quite all right.
Yeah.
How are things going? You feel okay about the way things are?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm behind, but the race has just started.
It's just started.
Okay. Well, good to see you guys.